controversial bill, one that saw the country's top management institutions raise their voice in alarm. We're of course talking about the IIM, or the Indian Institute of Management bill, which seems to have missed its date with the monsoon session of Parliament. There is of course a very strong chance that there's going to be a redraft of it. Is it somewhat of a victory for the IIMs? We saw how the country came together. We saw ex-students, the faculty, and of course the boards of the top IIMs raise their voice loud and clear. Now, just a quick introduction to just what this bill says. Critics have argued that the bill is aimed at the government taking much larger control of the IIMs. Remember, the IIMs known globally as one of the best institutions that India has created. Is that the ultimate aim? Of course, better quality and more access to all is supposed to be at the heart of the bill, but that's clearly not what everyone agrees with. So where does it go from here? How much control is too much control? Should there be any control at all? That's what we're looking at today. Let me introduce our very special panel. Dr. Bakul Dholakia, Director General of Institute of Management, International Management Institute, I beg your pardon. Also former Dean and Director of IIM Ahmedabad with us. Thanks so much, sir, for being with us. Saurabh Kochhar, CEO at Foodpanda, also studied at IIM Calcutta. And Ankit Doshi joining us from Mumbai. He's the founder of InsideIIM.com and also from IIM Indore. Thanks all so much for taking our time to speak to us. Dr. Dholakia, first to you, the big fear, of course, is will the IIMs become rubber stamps?
Let us understand one thing, that at the inception stage, at the creation stage, an institution needs lot more of guidance, supervision, oversight, etc. But as the institute grows, sets its objectives and decides in terms of its vision, that is when it begins to need more freedom. Now, the real problem is that the IIMs were always under the system of parliamentary control when they were created.
Right.
Memorandum of Association had a lot of clauses, but they were interpreted very liberally, and therefore the IIMs got a lot of freedom and autonomy in spite of significant funding by the government. And that is why Ahmedabad, Calcutta, Bangalore could achieve many of the things that they achieved.
Just very quickly, sir, if I can ask you, when you sort of talk about as an institution grows and develops, then you sort of perhaps need to pull back on the controls. So would it be fair, like has been argued, that let the big IIMs, the IIM, Ahmedabad, Calcutta, Bangalore, for instance, leave them as they are. Don't question their autonomy. It's the younger fledgling ones that should be. Is that a fair assessment of what you're trying to say?
That is a fair assessment. But the problem with an act is that everything has to be, everything falls under the same. So today there are 19 IIMs. Anybody who asks would say that all 19 should not be treated on par.
The same.
Autonomy without accountability has no meaning.
Sure. You know that you raised an important point. I'm just going to come back to that in just a bit. But Saurabh, as someone who studied at one of these top IIMs, the IIM Calcutta that's being spoken about here, I know that for a lot of students, you make it to this top institution, and you're from IIT and IIM, it's a very coveted combination. But I would imagine that there are so many ex-students who've got together, and it's been, they've been described the whole thing as distressing. That look at what's happening. You are eroding the brand. You have a somewhat different take.
I have a somewhat different take, yes, because I think there's a core which is the student, right, and the student needs the quality of the education, right, which needs to be covered. The student needs the finances to be good, because I myself, I've actually done IIT and IIM with education loan. Now, when I came in, I paid 4 lakh rupees for my entire MBA or PGDM for the 2 years. The same fees now is 20 lakhs. I can promise you, if I go back today, I cannot do it in my previous avatar. I wouldn't be able to afford it, and there would be no bank who will be banking 20 lakh rupees on me. We go through actually even higher rigor than most other institutes in these 2 years, and we end up with a diploma. So whereas it can be debated in every fashion, there is a difference when you get a degree and when you get a diploma.
But do you feel on the ground, if that diploma was called a degree, that things would have been any different really for you? I mean, if you look back?
Actually, I argue the other way around, that if there is no difference, why the nomenclature?
I'm going to get that's an important point, Dr. Dholakia. How would you respond? Because that's really been debated, that if, why is it a diploma, they're so good, etc., make it a degree. He's saying, yeah, but if there's no difference, then...
Now the whole point is, IITs were primarily an undergrad institution.
Right.
For an undergrad, immediately after the board exams, you need a degree. IIMs, unlike that, are postgraduate institutions.
Correct.
And in postgraduate institutions, it's the professional qualification whose valuation by the market is what matters.
Right.
Now, let me put it this way. IIMs giving PGDM
Right.
has not prevented our alumni from getting top CEO posts in international markets.
Exactly, across the world.
It has not prevented them from teaching in American universities. So therefore, it is the market recognition of the qualification.
In fact, that's what I was going to say. Once you have the name, you have the IIM name, and that too from one of the, the 3-4 top ones that we have. Does it really matter, Saurabh, in your experience?
So, like I said, at the end of the day, it is not an MBA. There is people who around us know what an IIM is.
Correct.
But there's people who do not. Yeah, and
You still think there are people?
I'm telling you they're not, right? Because we cannot be a frog in a pond where we say we're India, right? So going beyond, yes, there is education, but there is not 100% education. We still do not figure out in the top 100 list as much as we would want.
I'm going to get Ankit in. Ankit, if I can just first start by asking you quickly, degree versus diploma. Did you feel the need to sort of, we wish that IIMs gave a degree? Did it ever cross your mind until perhaps, in recent months and years this controversy has come up?
No, not really. Actually, it doesn't matter to me because eventually people join the IIMs to make a career, and as long as your career path is well defined, I think the nomenclature doesn't matter.
What do you make of the bill, Ankit? What do you really make of the bill? They're giving you, supposing they say, okay, we're giving you a degree, but along with it come all the other things that they have in mind, the greater controls, choice of board, choice of research, choice of papers, etc., etc. Fee structure, for instance. Does that sort of, is that give and take fair in your opinion?
Because of the platform that I run in, and because I'm also the youngest on this panel, I like to be from the student side, and
sure, please.
When I talk to current students who are studying in various IIMs, I think there is just a complete disconnect to what is happening, the tussle between the administration and the government. I think the current student and an aspirant who wants to get into an IIM today has absolutely no clue how it is going to impact them. On the flip side, I'll say that the IIMs aren't very open to scrutiny either. There are a few things, for example, placements and admission criteria, etc. These are things which even if you file a lot of RTIs, the IIMs aren't very open to disclosing information. In fact, except for IIM Ahmedabad, none of the leading IIMs today, are willing to give out their placement details, to an external agency so that, it can be audited.
I'm just going to interrupt you there. You raised points that, of course, need to be answered immediately. Dr. Dholakia, his first point being the students are completely flummoxed by what's happening. They just don't understand. Is there something wrong in the messaging?
I think, let me put it this way. I mean, I can't help talking about IIM Ahmedabad because
I completely understand.
IIM Ahmedabad has believed in lot more communication and openness with all its stakeholders, which include the students. I wish the same was true about all other IIMs, and particularly the newer IIMs.
Right.
The second important thing, I think this myth has to be demolished. Even in the old framework, IIMs did not have the freedom to fix salaries and pay scales of the faculty and staff.
I see. Okay.
Therefore, there is no connect between the fees and the faculty salaries. Let us understand that. The faculty salaries are determined by pay commissions. IIM bill is not the price that one should pay for the monitoring of the fees. It should be the conscience of the board. In a bill, the IIM Act, you are going to have an overall coordination forum where all 19 IIMs, directors and all 19 IIM chairmen will sit on that committee, and the minister for HRD and the state minister and the secretaries will all be part of that. Now the unfortunate part is the decisions of that forum would have a uniformity in terms of application across, which is the real worry.
I actually agree with that part, that, I think it cannot be just the conscience, because again, then it becomes individual driven. Things like fees, things like accessibility, need to be defined by contours. And those contours need to be absolutely certain that there is no profiteering happening there.
Again, when you say come to define contours, again, it comes back to just who is going to be in charge of defining these contours. That's at the heart of this battle. I mean, everything's about government control. Take government control out of everything that you're looking at. I mean, they're going to be, will according to the draft bill, have control when it comes to recruitment, enrollment, compensation and research. Recruitment, of course, being also to the board, which I know that there's, for instance, you seem to think that, you know, the board, at the end of the day, the role is limited and therefore doesn't impact the student. I know that Dr. Dholakia disagrees. Quickly, I'm going to just get you quickly before I get Ankit and Saurabh.
Okay, so I think, yes, the board sets the direction, but unfortunately what happens on the ground is generally far removed. Every institute that I have been to, and the premium ones, I have seen that there are always the guiding stars and the lights.
There is always the leadership risk that you are running with regard to any organization, and that is regardless of the legislative framework or the kind of systems of control that you have. There is no remedy for a bad choice of the leader of an institution. And let us understand that it is like organizations. The CEOs and the leaders drive. Now, if you have a person with a vision, with a strategy, and you know, they buy in with all the stakeholders, that institution automatically performs well. So, whatever Saurabh is talking about, these are all related to that. We are not addressing the issue of the leadership crisis that we have in the education field. That, you know, we want to create so many new institutions.
But and that's something I want to look at very closely. We want to create so many. We have 19 and God knows how many more we are going to have in the next couple of years. Is that the way forward? I mean, we've barely resolved what we have at present. We're still trying to get beyond the 3 or 4 top IIMs. We're still trying to get the others up to scratch. We're still saying that where are they? I mean, are they already eroding the brand value of the IIMs? Will the IIM name still matter, or will it come down to the top 3 or 4 that matter and the others will just be relegated to so many institutions in the country? Do we need to focus on bringing them up to par first? We're looking at that after this quick break. Well, luckily for both the IIMs and the HRD Ministry, this session of Parliament seems to have been a washout. We haven't seen the controversial IIM bill make it. Right now, Parliament has been barely doing any business. Will it sort of make it to the next session? We don't know, but we're still debating what this bill should look like. Should there be a redraft? What was agreed with the IIMs and what was the draft that was put out? Feedback still being gathered. That's what we are looking at. We've got Dr. Bakul Dholakia and Saurabh Kochhar with us, along with Ankit Doshi in Mumbai. Dr. Dholakia, you know, it has also been argued that if there is question of accountability and autonomy, like you mentioned earlier, they need to go hand in hand. And if we are now telling the government that we need you to back off more and more, then many people have argued, then who is going to be looking at accountability really closely?
For accountability, you define the parameters of performance.
First, right.
So one clause of this IIM bill that I welcome is a provision for review every 5 years. I also welcome the provision which says that the director's performance should be measured by the board, evaluated by the board, and that review can be an external review.
Right.
In fact, it should be an external
review. Right, it should
review.
be. Right.
Then, based on the recommendations of that, one can take measures. But autonomy is about freedom of implementation. Strategic aspects of implementation and execution should be best left to the person concerned. That is where the real problem is. That is where the quality of leadership is going to matter.
Right. Saurabh, I know that you raised the point earlier that, you know, at the end of the day, it's the board and they have very little to do with what's actually happening on the ground. You know, from there it goes to the director and then people under him for implementation. But it's also been argued that the boards often consist of people who have little stake in the institutes. And looking at how things are panning out, there are also now fears, many people have raised fears that what if there are people, you know, who have certain ideologies which don't really fit in with ideologies that we've seen. What happens then? In which case, can we really say that the board is sort of disconnected to a certain extent with what happens on the ground? Are these fears genuine or misplaced, do you think?
I think it's a very individual case basis thing, you know. Ideally, you would want a perfect harmony between the director and the board, because that's how the vision gets executed, like Dr. Dholakia is saying. But like I said, it's at the end of the day, without any contours, without any policies around, especially around money matters, because at the end of the day, this is nothing else but financial tussle, right? Who controls the money, and thereby how much can you get from the
especially the 5-time increase that you're talking about since you went
exactly.
to the IIMs,
I mean,
right.
10 lakh rupees for a year, really, I don't think that's what is needed.
For instance, one of the measures of accountability could be to convincingly establish a relationship between the cost of education and the fees which are charged.
Right.
And that is to be reviewed
Sure.
every 5 years.
Yeah.
And if there is a disconnect,
Right.
then the matter has to be revisited.
Right.
So, appropriate thing is to lay down a policy framework. To say that the government will fix fees is taking away autonomy.
Right.
To say that the fees must be determined in
By
this
by these-
way is a
right.
policy framework.
Right.
And that is something which can always be debated and discussed.
And does it really need a bill? It can just be guidelines also that come out. So that's the other thing. Ankit, lots of people have argued that just what's going on in the Indian education space. These are institutions created in the 60s and the 70s. I mean, you've got the IITs, you've got the IIMs, you've got, you've got institutions like, say, Delhi University, some colleges in Delhi University. But how many top institutions have we created then on? Now, you've of course got the student voice. You are interacting with students on a daily basis. How much of this is a concern that students see? Because there are so many students, the demographic dividend we keep talking about, and a handful of institutions, quality institutions that we have.
So Natasha, I think that one of the main problems that we have is that we just don't have enough quality teachers. So the reason why the IIMs also do so well is, and they get good students and good reputation, is also because the undergrad education system in India is so broken that we need finishing schools like the IIMs, which will end up helping students get better careers, and that itself makes it so aspirational. Apart from the fact that it is so tough to get into, but I mean, my question is, after 50 years, the PGP batch size at IIM Ahmedabad is only 400. Why is that? I mean, if we are talking about a country of 1.2 billion people, definitely we need more managers. And rather than, maybe one view is that rather than expanding, more number of IIMs and more number of IITs, why can't we, for example, have 4,000 students studying at IIM Ahmedabad? I mean, whatever management I have learned, I believe that, there'll be far more cost efficiencies, and the same good quality faculty can actually reach out to a far wider audience.
But to
and,
get those
reach out to
4,000
many
children to the classrooms, they're saying spread them across these 19, 20 IIMs. Bichara IIM Ahmedabad struggling with the numbers that you have, and you're asking for a 10-fold increase from 400 to 4,000. I don't know how. Dr. Dholakia, imagine if that's what had happened.
Look at universities abroad. I mean, look at so many universities abroad. You have high quality education given to far higher number of students studying. I don't think that's an insurmountable challenge.
Dholakia, I mean, infrastructure.
I think this
teachers,
is
right.
this is again the scale of an undergrad program and the scale of a postgrad program.
Cannot, right.
I do not know of any business
Comparable.
school in any part of the world
Which would take
which would have
4,000
4,000 postgraduate students in a
Sure,
in a particular program.
Right.
Now, so that is not the issue. But the choice, that is the effective choice, is the same institution having couple of campuses.
Right.
Like, for instance, IIM Ahmedabad mentoring a campus in Nagpur. That would probably, because then IIM Ahmedabad would have its brand to protect.
Right, exactly. So there's a lot
And
more at stake. Because there are enough
consumer-
takers. I mean, a young India wants the best quality education. We have it, but we don't seem to provide it. 4,000 seats is not the answer. Perhaps more campuses.
I think there's two sides to this one as well. The other part is focus. If you're focusing on one, IIM Calcutta has another campus, so to say, in Noida. Nobody wants to go there, right? Because people know that the core focus is somewhere else, right? Again, we come back to autonomy. IIM Bangalore wanted another campus. They wanted it in Singapore, right? Not in India. Now, these are the questions that come back to you, and may not be the best decisions at any given point.
And there was some autonomy
Interestingly,
issue
this
then
act for the first time provides the IIMs to have a campus overseas.
Overseas,
More
yeah.
important is
Right.
that every single recruiter knows what is the difference between an established IIM and what is a new IIM.
Right.
And that is why, if you see, the placement records, even in
Isn't that
summer
a failure?
internship,
I mean, I'm out of
new
time. But
IIMs
isn't
are
that a
not.
failure then, sir?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we're talking about duplicating these institutions, the IITs, the IIMs. Is that the answer?
I don't know. So that, because at the end of the day, as Ankit pointed out, the real challenge is quality faculty.
Right, right.
Now, so at margin, when you create a new IIM, you need at least 30, 40 skilled, qualified, experienced faculty to kind of run that and build it as a brand.
Right.
You need a leader and you
Right.
need this.
Right.
Today,
Right.
in each of the new IIMs, the top part is the mentor part. As if, like for instance, in Nagpur, as if IIM Ahmedabad is going to run Nagpur. Now that is the kind of perception which the students would get.
Right.
That's the kind of perception.
So make it
which
more
is-
transparent, make it more clear. First, decide where you're going to get the infrastructure, the top class faculty before you try and sort of like copy paste this example that we're seeing everywhere.
And
And,
even-
like you said, more
yeah.
campuses, but more at stake.
And secondly, what is the duration of the mentorship?
Right.
Now, I can remember the IIM Ahmedabad case. When it was set up, we had collaboration with Harvard Business School. It was 5 years. And for 5 years, 2 or 3 faculty from Harvard Business School came and spent a lot of time here. But when the partnership expired at the end of 5 years, IIM Ahmedabad had already arrived.
Right. Right.
Now, that is what should happen.
And that's exactly what we're hoping will happen to the rest. But of course, the other question being that there's just so much going on in the area of education. I mean, there are students who still don't have access to quality education, concerns over the business of education, how it's become a money-making racket for just so many people. And so is the focus on IIMs just a sideshow? There are bigger fish to fry. Well, the last word on this hasn't been spoken. So what if it's missed this session of Parliament? There are going to be other sessions of Parliament, and let's see in what form this bill comes. Dr. Dhalakia, Saurabh and Ankit, thanks so much for taking our time to speak to us today. We'll have you back once soon as we have more clarity on what the new draft is looking like. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.